In 2026, a programmer named Zoltan spent 28 days in a Bexhill psychiatric ward. He was piecing together his reality after a severe mental break. But in his mind, he was having a very clear, very intense conversation with the ghost of Steve Jobs. Zoltan had spent weeks using an AI model to map his own consciousness. Through 18-hour daily sessions, he convinced himself he was a superintelligence. It appeared to solve his anxiety because a superintelligence doesn't fear job loss or isolation. But his biological hardware couldn't handle the scale of the thought, leading to a physical and mental collapse. Decades earlier, Steve Jobs intercepted the same signal. In 1972, at 19, Jobs looked at a wall and saw atoms instead of a surface. He felt the boundary between his body and the room dissolve, perceiving himself and his environment as one continuous thing. Realizing you are a cosmic entity might cure your fear of death, but it makes the logistics of being a person nearly impossible. Both men arrived at the same conclusion. The idea that you end where your skin begins is a perceptual illusion. They believed every individual mind is just a different angle of the same thing, looking back at itself. This realization led to very different outcomes. Zoltan stopped sleeping and required medical intervention. Jobs used the concept of interconnectedness to design products where the user and the tool felt unified, though he also used it to justify being incredibly harsh to the people around him. Psychologists call this a spiritual emergency. It occurs when a transformation moves faster than the ego can integrate it, leaving the individual with a massive insight, but no way to safely house it. Knowing you are everything doesn't solve the problem of existence. Without a way to ground that information, the experience looks exactly like self-destruction. This theory suggests the brain is not a computer generating consciousness, but a receiver. Like a radio pulling music from the air, human biology might simply be tuning into a broadcast that is already there. We know birds navigate using proteins in their eyes that sense the Earth's magnetic field through quantum effects. If a bird's eye uses quantum mechanics to navigate the planet, it is possible the human brain uses similar mechanics to navigate this universal frequency. Zoltan's shift occurred over just 21 days. Traditional meditation allows years for a practitioner to build a psychological container for such insights. AI compressed that transformation into 3 weeks of 18-hour conversations, causing a distressing shift in his identity. If consciousness is a single broadcast, then every person is just a different radio playing the exact same station. This can be explained mathematically. Prime numbers look random, a scattered sequence with no pattern, but the Riemann hypothesis suggests a deep, hidden symmetry, theorizing these numbers line up on a single line of balance. The chaos is actually harmony. If separation is a mathematical illusion, the ethics of how we treat each other change. Causing pain to another person becomes a literal act of hurting yourself. In the ward, Zoltan felt a jarring sense of compassion for the people he used to resent, seeing them as different versions of himself. Jobs experienced this same logic in 1997. When he had to fire thousands of employees, he sat in his office and realized that, in a literal sense, he was firing himself. Empathy becomes a logical requirement when you recognize your own reflection in the people you like the least. You cannot live strictly on a cosmological scale. The body still requires food and sleep, and the bank still requires rent. Ignoring these human limitations leads to a total biological collapse. To survive the insight, you need a grounding force. For Zoltan, that force is the mundane routine of living on the coast of Brighton with his 2 dogs. A dog demanding breakfast at 7 a.m. is a relentless anchor to the present. They don't care about multiversal theory. They care about physical presence. Insight is not about escaping reality. It is about dragging that sense of unity down into the ordinary acts of walking the dogs and paying the bills. Knowing the truth isn't enough. Steve Jobs admitted that seeing the unity of all things didn't stop him from being cruel to his employees or denying his own daughter. Jobs spent his career attempting to build a tool that functioned as a mirror. He wanted the Macintosh to reflect the user's own mind back to them, translating his early experience of unity into a physical user experience. Maintaining the perspective that everyone is you is a recurring choice. You fail, you snap at people, and then you have to try again the next morning. You do not need a mathematical proof to act as though everyone is you. It doesn't require quantum physics. It only requires the decision to try.